the more I raise my consciousness level, my awareness. And with that, as you do that, you can actually gain more insights. You can do more of what you're here for and feel yourself more and all of that. With that, actually, also, it'll be easier for you to connect with other people and to, see what's going on. Because this very pure, high vibrating quantum energy, you can also call it a high consciousness field.
Philipp, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited, man, to kind of dive into this quantum energy healing side of things. I think I told you before we hit record, we've touched in the biohacking space, we've gone into structured water. So I think, our audience is somewhat familiar with maybe some of the components of your work, but let's go all the way back into the beginning, man. Let's talk about your journey into this quantum healing energy. So kind of pick up the story wherever you feel it makes the most sense, and kind of tell us how you got into all of this work.
Yeah, so, I have to go back to the year 2000 pretty much, or, around the 2000 at least, where, I felt lost in my life. I felt unhappy in my life. And then really in the early 2000s, I was in corporate Europe at the time, not corporate US, but corporate Europe, and doing my job and all of that. And I really felt as if I was cut off my own intuition, my own feelings and emotions even. And I noticed really this, I'm not happy, right? And so I felt like I need to do something to get out of this unhappiness and really figure out what's out there. And that's when I started to do meditation, to get into yoga. Then I got more curious and I started to open up, right? I started to actually feel what it is like if there's a blockage, an energetic blockage, and you release that, and then you can get deeper into your inner power, your intuition, all of that. I went through various shamanic workshops, learned various energy healing techniques, over the years. And with that, then I got even more curious. And I didn't really learn these things because I felt like, okay, I want to be this healer dude that has just one-on-one sessions with people and heals them. That was never my aspiration, even though in between I've done these things and I truly enjoy that type of work. But it was more for me to actually heal myself, right? And that's kind of what happened over time, that more and more I was able to release. Then I was like, okay, I need to find the best healers in the world. Who are the best healers, and can I learn something from them? And what can they, offer to me, frankly, on my own healing journey? And then in 2005, I met my wife, who was born with the ability to see energy fields and aura. She had never lost this conscious connection to the divine, how you can say, which I had lost completely. And I feel like in the world, most people, are like that they've forgotten that. And then we're basically in the box of the five senses, right? And even in our five senses, we don't really even notice those anymore, right? Like it's like we're numbed down, like on all levels, even within the five senses. I mean, who's walking around outside on the street and is smelling how it smells like? Listen to, there's different birds singing or something, and really seeing what's all around. It's like, because we're all just so focused with our thoughts on, gotta pay these bills, I gotta figure out this project at work, we're always stressed, right? But then, so you can actually start there with, starting to realize your feelings and your senses again. But then you have these higher senses also that we're so cut off from, and that's what I worked on, to really open that up. And yeah, and then my wife, she got diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. So that was kind of like the parallel story that then started to happen. And I think in 2010, she was diagnosed. And then they told her, well, you've had it now for 5 years and you won't be able to heal it. Face the truth. There's nothing you can do with chronic Lyme disease. And we did not take a no for an answer at all. She had her own abilities, obviously, but that triggered in me the biohacker / bioenergy hacker, where I started to dig into what's out there. What are the things we can do to make her feel better and get over this chronic Lyme disease, right? And I constantly came up with new stuff, right? And yeah, and the long story short, through all these different things we did, she has no Lyme disease anymore since several years, and there's also no symptoms left or anything. Like the first year after, it was basically gone. She still got arthritis, like when it got winter, but even that is like it's all completely gone. So it's absolutely possible to, transform certain things, even like physical diseases where or conditions where people say it's not possible. And then, throughout this whole journey, at some point, this vision came up. So, by the way, in parallel, I stayed in big corporate, right? I must mention that, I think, because I didn't go into just being like an energy healer in the early 2000s. I actually stayed in corporate Europe, then corporate US. So I was vice president at T-Mobile, responsible for 14 countries internationally, and then T-Mobile US. I was on the board of a multi-billion-dollar US company, and in 2016 I couldn't do that stretch anymore because I kind of lived like two people, if you will, right? I was this energetic being that had like a much, much broader perspective of things and looked at things, yeah, really in a different way than just from the material or physical standpoint. But then I was in this executive role where you still had to be that role also, right? You couldn't be fully this other me or this real me. So I had to try to merge those, which I did, and it worked quite well. But at some point, I felt like I had to be myself fully all the time. And so in 2016, I left corporate and said, "Okay, thank you, God bless you," and it's been a great experience. I mean, I learned a lot, but that was it. And then I wanted to really just work from what's within my heart. What's truly bringing me joy, and how can I help people? Like, what is the gift that I have, maybe, where I can help you? What are the visions I can have come in? And yeah, that culminated ultimately into also the quantum technology and frequency medicine, where we combine a lot of these different aspects that I talked about.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. There's a lot there for us to pick apart and kind of chew on here a little bit. So I think you said this initially started around 2001. That was kind of when you realized like I'm not really happy. You kind of began to explore some healing. So then I think you said 2016 was when you walked away from corporate. So there was this 15-year stretch there where you're pursuing this healing and you're staying in the corporate world. Curious, Philip, like how your career progressed. Like, did you notice like an ascension up the ladder? You mentioned, running 14 countries, executive vice president here at T-Mobile, incredible organization. I mean, everybody knows the name, right? Like it's a very well recognized company and you're holding a very strong position. So what role, I guess, did the healing play in the ascension of your corporate journey?
So I think two things come to mind. One is that certainly the career, significantly progressed because I was able to look at things from a higher perspective, if you will. And I didn't need to go into the nitty gritty corporate politics and all of that. And, I was, for example, also never, my personality was, I want to get things done. I want to, create new things. I want to, if there's a company that had problems, I want to help them grow, help, build new stuff, and make people happy again, make people enjoy the work again also, but also feel like we can all get something done together. Whereas often, especially in these big organizations, you find people that, especially the ones that are there for many, many, many years, they just sit there and get paid and they like to maintain the status quo. And that's pretty much, and I told everyone in the interview, I said, like, if you look for a guy that wants to maintain the status quo, I'm not your guy. Like I'm going to take things apart. I'm going to put things back together in a different way. And so even in these large organizations where I had teams, we created like a startup spirit because, I felt like that's kind of what's needed. You need dynamics and all of that. So I think that's one of the aspects. And then the other aspect, let me think in regards to the career. I felt, already since probably 2011, 12, I felt like, is it really for me? Do I really need to stay in corporate? Like I asked myself the question with all I know, and also knowing that you're always in the sandwich position there, and you're really not really contributing to the greater good. And with the greater good, I mean the real greater good, not this fake greater good that we've been told about in the last 4 years. Mm, And it wasn't the time. Never had an energetic impulse to leave corporate until really 2016. It was more like, okay, you stay in there and just maybe also touch people there. Maybe you're able to also set impulses there that are well needed in the corporate world that otherwise may not get into that, right? And there's probably hundreds or thousands of other people like me that have done the same thing, but ultimately at some point you can't do it anymore.
That's great. I want to go back to the beginning here again, man, because there's something like in the beginning that's really jumping out to me. And I think it's going to reveal a lot about you and actually how you ended up starting this. And I think it's going to show a lot about your kind of innate characters. Because you mentioned that you'd realize like, I'm not happy. And I think that's something that every single person listening right now can resonate. We've all been at a point in our life where we look around and we're like, we're not happy. But you didn't go a traditional route of curing the unhappiness. You went into yoga in meditation, like some non-traditional methods, like not the first thought that people think, like when I'm unhappy, it's like, let me go see a therapist. Let me look at some of these other things, right? More traditional stuff. What led you to the yoga and meditation though, for the healing?
That's a great question. I don't even know if I fully know the answer of that, but well, first it was definitely my heart. The curiosity when I started actually reading about it first. So I read some books about, I think, mindfulness, you know, and from there I got impulses, right? And I kind of got these little lights like, oh, okay, so this is something I should pay attention to, or this is something I should follow. So I started to pay attention to how I was reacting to what's around me or what information I was exposed to or consuming. Um, so I think that was really the reason. And in the end of the day, now looking back, I mean, I must say that that is the path. And for everyone, it's always a different path, right? No one needs to do yoga meditation specifically, but the path is for everyone to go inside, to try to unlock your inner power, to free your potential, and the best way to do that is to figure out with yourself, like how can I do that? And then there's different methods that you may encounter that can help you, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's Kundalini yoga, whether it's, I don't know, a soul retrieval journey or a vision quest, or, there's tons of things you can do to do the first steps. And then after each step or during each step, you get more impulses to do something else. But it's certainly not the way to, and by the way, the therapists can also be helpful on the way. I would rather say, though, probably not the mainstream therapists, to phrase it lightly, especially not there where pharmaceuticals are involved, right? For some cases, I think that's actually, probably necessary, but because you can have some like really tough depressional, cases where, I don't know, kids since the age of 2, they've been just crying all the time. They've been just in depressive state forever, pretty much. And probably there's no other way out at first than that. But in general, I would say that is not the way, because it cuts you off way further off your inner power. And then if you ever want to get out of that, you'll have to do even more work after that to get rid of that. So I think, that's the way. And to face yourself, face your shadows, dig into that. If I'm unhappy, okay, so why am I unhappy? What is it? What can I do? And try to change your lifestyle. You don't have to completely change it like 180 degrees, but if you start with each step, you'll get there. And I think that's what I can tell people now looking back. And thankfully I had started that path.
Yeah, no, and I think that rings true and consistent with a lot of the other experts that we've had here on the show. The unhappiness is not the problem. It's oftentimes it's going to be a symptom of something else that is going on in your life. We had Kashif Khan on, who's the founder of the DNA company. I'm sure you're familiar with
No,
Kashif
very
and
well.
his
Yeah.
work. Yeah, so Kashif says, 90% of depression, anxiety, and addiction oftentimes is contextual, right? It's like you're not operating in alignment with how you were created. And that was your answer there, right? It's like, I needed to look inside and figure out who I was. Like, I wasn't made to be this corporate executive building a massive multi-billion-dollar company. I was put on this earth to be a healer, perhaps more of an entrepreneur, visionary, to cast a vision and build a team around me. And through that journey of you understanding that about yourself, you now hear almost 20 plus years later, like you've set yourself up. And I doubt you ever wake up and say, maybe you have points where you're like, you're not as happy as you could be, but I'm sure you don't walk around saying I'm no longer happy or not happy anymore, right? So it's all that contextual. And that's where we got to be able to look within.
Absolutely. And I think the first steps to go are the hardest, to be honest, because especially for the ones that are like, oh, all this energetic BS, there's not really anything there. It's all physical. Well, there's a point. So if you dig into that and then you really try to work with it a little bit, you start to get into that and you'll feel like that the world literally opens up as you open that can, and it may be a little rough at first because you're starting to face yourself, and it's not always pleasant in the beginning, but that's where the real freedom waits at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. So what do you say to that person though that says, this energy stuff, it's like it's all this hogwash, like look, we are just material world. I can see, I can touch everything. Like talk to that person, kind of the skeptic, right? Like tell us about quantum healing energy.
So first of all, I'm going to share truth, and then everyone can feel in their heart that it's true. We're all energetic beings. We're all energy and frequency. That's frankly all we are. We're nothing but energy and frequency. And Tesla already said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you need to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So I think that's a very good quote. And yeah, it's hard to understand, of course, because we think of ourselves as solid, right? But then, you can get at it logically too, because we're actually over 90% water. And I think you can find that in every book that talks about that. And we don't feel that we're 90% water, right? So, but it's true. And then water is also in the end mainly energy, because it's 99% space. All of this is over 99% space. So if that is the case, why do we think that it's all solid? So try to understand that, try to work with that. Can you maybe be very present in your body? And then, so who is actually feeling the presence in your body? Who is observing something? It's always who is that, right? It's your consciousness. That's what you are, your consciousness, conscious energy being. And nowadays it's actually what we're doing with the work we do. I mean, this is the quantum healing. We have developed the technology that can input pure quantum energy into any object, and you can feel the benefits if you're a physiological organism, whether it's a plant, an animal, or us humans. Frankly, you can literally feel it. Energy, like seers or healers, they can literally see it. Then there's a lot of people that have a hard time perceiving energy because they're so stuck in the box of the five senses, and in the narrative that there's everything is just physical and material. So for those, because of my background, actually, that I had forgotten all of myself, I knew most people have no clue about this stuff. So we started very early to give the technology to lots of labs and institutes and all of that to show physical results, show the physical efficacy. And if your audience is familiar with structuring water, then they may know the Emoto Institute in Japan. That's just one out of very many examples where you can. What they've done is they took a control water, and that control water had one beautiful crystal. In their world, they work with these crystalline structures in the water, and that's how they can determine how amazing the water is. They put it in this device where you think, as this very logical, mind-focused person, well, there's nothing in it. That won't be able to do anything. And then within a few minutes, oh, magic. Suddenly the water transforms into the best primal water that you can think of, with 5 beautiful crystals. And then leads to the fact that even the Emoto Institute says, wow, we've never seen anything like this. We want to have your products here and sell those, right? So what does that do? It shows you it can change the energy in water. We have already proven, like, dozens of times, it can optimize your blood, which is running through our veins, and you can see literally within 10 minutes that blood clots are reversing from stage 1 and stage 2 of blood clotting is reversing to a healthy, organized, oxygenated blood. It's just energy. That's the moment where I feel like, awesome. If someone didn't believe any of this is even remotely possible, then looks at stuff like this, well, there must be something more, right? And then if this thought process starts, that's the moment where I'm happy because we triggered someone to get in touch with their inner truth more. And whether they buy our products or not, that's really not, that's pretty irrelevant to me at that point. I'm like, you made a big step to understand more about yourself actually by seeing something like that. And that's where I get the joy from, where we can help people wake up. And yeah, I stop here because you probably have other questions. So
No, this is all good, man. And I think even the most intense, materialistic, like they're gonna say, I've walked into a room and I felt the energy of a person, or I've been around somebody and they had a low energy, they had a negative energy. It's like we say all the things, we know these things, and it's almost like we kind of forget like what the actual meaning of what we're saying. Well, if a person is projecting a negative energy, that means that there's part of them that has to be an energy, right? So I think we all can understand that. And yeah, I think the structured water, we did an entire episode with Mario Brainovich of Analima. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them as well. We dove deep into all the amazing stuff that their wand is doing. So we're energy, right? We're 99% energy, but then we're talking about this quantum energy healing. So what's the difference between, I guess, our energy and this quantum energy?
Yep. So just one thing. So we're not just 99% energy, we're 100% energy because all the matter is also energy. I think it's just important for people to really understand the matter is also energy. And there's frankly quantum energy everywhere. You can find quantum energy everywhere. The only thing that's so different where the breakthrough really happened is that it's usually not there in a concentrated fashion. So we've been able to harness and concentrate it in a way where suddenly, because of such a concentration of this subtle energy, things are possible that are not possible in another way in this 3D world, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you guys are harnessing the quantum through the device. What do you mean by harness? Like how?
Yep. It's the same energy that we have in each of our cells. Like each of our cells has a quantum field. That's how the cells communicate. And so we're not talking about something artificial. It's just the very same energy, even though that's hard to understand for the brain. I get that. If you had told me that 25 years ago, I would have also said, oh, that's really hard to wrap my brain around. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works. And how we harness that and concentrate it, that's really the only thing that I don't share, because that's pretty much our secret sauce. And we share already so much. We even share the extension of our own technology so that people can become like quantum energy independent. They can make their own products with this and copy frequencies and just do so much stuff with it. That's the only thing we're like, okay, we know how to do this, but we don't share that, but we share with you everything else.
So per individual out here hearing this right now, maybe they're Philip of 2001, right? Something's resonated with them. Like, God, I'm not a happy man either. Like, but I've always kind of thought it was just material. Like, somebody wants to kind of go down this exploration journey. Like yours was yoga, meditation, Tai Chi. Talk about some of the early steps that an individual can take. Obviously, check out Leela and pick up the quantum device. But outside of that, are there ways that we can begin to explore this, maybe in the natural world?
I think indeed meditation is one thing, and it doesn't need to be this super long meditation. I think there's actually something I recommend to people early on to do for a while, but do that consistently, which doesn't take much of your time, because time commitment is always the biggest struggle for people nowadays, right? Even 15 minutes of meditation a day, you'd think that, I mean, you can manage that, right? I mean, figure out 15 minutes in your freaking day, you'll be able to find that. But no, I mean, you can't find that. And then, oh, and I need to sit down for 50 minutes and not say anything. People don't want to do that. So first thing, if you wake up in the morning, don't grab your phone. Don't talk to your wife or anyone else. Don't get up and run, brush your teeth. Stay in bed. Stay with yourself. Ask yourself the question, how am I? How do I feel? And let that just sink in for like a minute, just 1 minute. You feel into yourself, and you don't even need to get the answer, like, how do you feel? Because it's actually surprising. Like, I'll tell you, most of you probably that haven't done this, like the first few times you do this, you don't really know how you feel. And that actually makes you more curious because, oh my God, I really don't know how I really feel. But that, it doesn't matter. You don't need to get an answer. Just listen, just be with yourself for a minute, then get up, go about your day. Then the last minute, so you're in bed, you're ready to sleep. put your phone away, don't talk to your wife, take that last minute just for yourself. Ask yourself, you know, how am I now? How do I feel? And just feel yourself. And that's 2 minutes in your day. That everyone can do that, and do that for a week. Do that. Try to do that for 2 weeks in a row, and your life will already change quite significantly. And you'll start to get insights and ideas from there. What else you may want to explore, and and just sharpen your antennas, for things like that. What is it? If maybe you run across a yoga studio somewhere and you have this picture suddenly you've never seen that before, and you're like, hey, that looks interesting, and then just follow that impulse. Don't think like, oh, I don't know. Just follow that impulse. Go do it. Um, I think that's the thing, and there's tons of different things on. I personally always recommend Kundalini yoga. Especially if we're talking about males. Females certainly also is absolutely great, but males often they're not. So they don't like the typical yoga where you're like always in this one long asana pose, and it can be just frustrating. And then you have to do these weird movements where you stand up and put your hands all down to the feet, and most men struggle with that and feel bad they can't do it. So Kundalini yoga is very, very different. Kundalini yoga is the most complete yoga of all yogas you can find, because it includes real physical activity, and it's not like holding a pose that long. It's actually very physical, and it really moves your whole body and moves the whole energy of your body, moves the energy upwards. It includes meditation, it includes mantra, um, and breath work. Very important is breath work, actually. And with each one of those, actually, you can do a whole lot. Just by doing breath work, you can release even trauma. You can, get into a better state and connection with yourself. But if you combine these, and then Kundalini yoga is very scientific also. There's usually a whole set. It's called a kriya. So you have some warmers and then you have a kriya, and it does certain things, and it may promote certain releases of stress and stuff like that. So I find that, if you feel like now I'm getting an impulse, like Philipp is talking about, and I feel like a resonance, then go check it out. Do you have a Kundalini yoga studio close to you? If not, hey, online, there's probably places you can find that. So start there. Start with whatever you feel like is in your heart that you want to start to explore. But yeah, don't take pills.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, man. What I hear, man, is a reoccurring theme, man, and it's like it's the curiosity, right? It's like we got to sometimes get out of our rational thinking stage and be curious. Why are we feeling this way? I mean, in everything you said, from the moment you wake up, ask yourself, how do I feel? Why do I feel this way? When you see a particular, image, what does that make me feel? If you drive by a yoga studio, ask some questions. I mean, a massive part of this is us just beginning to become more curious and self aware of what's going on inside, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree.
I think a big part of your story, man, you mentioned in 2005 was meeting your wife and kind of this unique power that she had. You used some language here. She never lost conscious connection to the divine. Can you talk about the role that your wife played in your healing journey, as well as the creation of everything you're doing with Layla?
Yeah, I mean, she was a very big help, like we each helped each other on the various levels, and she really helped me. I think in that stage where I met her in 2005, I was still, even though I had already done a lot of work, I had released a lot of stuff and had understood so much more, I still had so many doubts, because it's, this having lived in this box of the five senses for so long and really cut off from your own feelings and all that, and that's all you like kind of like live and hear in the general narrative, right? It gets really hard to get out of that, and for me it took years, and so having had someone there that actually always had this very clear perspective and view on these things helped a lot. She also could see a lot of things that within me were still buried that I hadn't looked at, or shadows. And I tell you, that was one of the most uncomfortable things. Also in relationship, like when someone can like literally see everything, and you're like, I really like don't want to be seen right now. I don't even want to talk about anything right now. It's like you have these moments, right? Everyone has those, but there's constantly someone there that's like, yeah, there's still something, and it's it was challenging at times, but it was very very helpful in the long run for sure. And yeah, she's been great in all that regard, and certainly with her qualities that she has, she's been able to really contribute greatly to all of those products and the technology and the various frequencies.
Yeah. How would you describe her superpower here to somebody that has no understanding of energy, of quantum healing, like, lost conscious connection to the divine? And I've heard you say she sees things. Like, is she physically seeing things?
So I think everyone, or I know actually everyone has their own way to perceive energy or to see energy, right? It's literally different for everyone. And I had to learn it the hard way because I always thought it's the actual like seeing, like you see with your own eyes, but that's not really how it is. And you actually need to give that up to try to want to see it exactly that way. You just instead find out your way of seeing things. And it may start with just knowing things. That's how it was for me to know things at first. For her, really, it's indeed like she could see the like colors in the aura and things like that, but still not with the physical eye. Um, Energetic blockages, and I must say, so all the amazing healers I've met over the years, I can say that none is alike. There's no one exactly like another, and they don't all have like the same like core competencies, if you will. They usually have like really their field. Like these are the things that they're really, really good at. And so what my wife is really, really good at, among the best in the world, is to, if she has a session with someone, she can see what the issues are, what the problems are, what the real root causes of these things are. So you may not even need to come with a problem; she can tell you and read that. But if you have a problem, like there's something you constantly struggle in life, then you can just say it, and then she'll get to the absolute root cause of that, and she can see what is the fastest way to actually really transform that, not to put in a quick fix of, okay, now you feel a little better. She can do that too, but it's her work really is root cause focused, where it may take a while until this deep root cause is really transformed, but then it is fully transformed and it never comes back. And you don't have those issues anymore. And that's kind of like the work. And she works oftentimes with people actually for a whole year. That's the that's her favorite way of working with someone because that has like the greatest impact on people's life. And her goal is never ever to keep anyone there longer than needed. And usually, I mean, she gets them out there, and after that 1 year, they're just like, wow, tackling life, doing what they're here for, living in much more happiness and connection and all of that. And that's the goal. Like, she's booked out anyway, so it's out of multiple reasons, not really, her goal to keep people. But that's the thing. So she helps where we may not have the ability to see in ourselves, and even healers, by the way, really good healers, and that would include my wife. Um, their own struggles, their own really core struggles, it's always good to have someone else that's really great at that look at it and give you some impulse.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I think, from a coaching perspective, or from a healing, or, I'm taking on clients to work with them. That should be the goal every single time, is to get them off of your calendar, off of your plate as quick as possible. Anytime I see somebody that's, got clients that they're working with, for 6 years in, it's a problem I have with the chiropractic space. It's like, why do I got to keep coming back? Can't you fix the problem? Anyways, that'd be a long tangent to go down a different rabbit hole there. I want to talk about the community and kind of the type of people that are attracted to this. I know you have a community that your company is building of over 10,000 people. I'm assuming this is, people that have done the products and the healing, gone on the journeys with you. What are the consistencies in these people? Like, are they coming from similar backgrounds? Is it they have the same type of trauma? Are they wired the same type of way? Like, is there a type of individual that you've seen is attracted to this quantum healing?
We see various types actually of people. One type is really the type that's um, more on the biohacking side, where people are into wellness, into health, trying to maintain their health and to just be proactive with it. Other people are the ones where health is in a bad state and they need to regain control over their health and their real wellness and well-being. And then there's the third group that you can maybe also divide into two, where those are the people that are really interested in the holistic aspect, and a big subset of those are actually really interested in raising their own vibration, into raising their own consciousness level. They're aware that, the more I get access to my inner power, the more I raise my consciousness level, my awareness, and with that, as you do that, you can actually gain more insights. You can do more of what you're here for and feel yourself more and all of that. And with that, actually, also, it'll be easier for you to connect with other people and to, see what's going on. So, and because this, you know, very pure, high vibrating quantum energy, you can also call it a high consciousness field, for example. It's almost interchangeable. They go hand in hand, let's say it that way. And so if you're close to something like that, then you start to vibrate higher as well. Like, it literally like invites you and signals to you to also vibrate higher. You start to do that. And one way of how people notice that can't perceive energy so well is that usually they've known from the past where we have these ups and downs in our lives, right? But then you'll notice that the downs, and that won't stop, right? Because that's life, I mean, you will also have challenges in your life, right? Because that's life, that's what we're here to explore things and to deal with things and to learn things. But the downs are not so low anymore. Like, nothing can drag you down that much anymore, because there's something that kind of carries you a little bit more.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Philip, right? The fact that this is not going to be the cure all to solve all of your problems. You're still going to have the everyday challenges of being a human being, living in the real world. So this is not a cure all for everything, but it probably shortens the window of time that you're in down. And like you said, it doesn't experience as frequent. What about children? I mean, obviously, it's hard to get a child to sit down and maybe meditate in terms of the focus standpoint. But in terms of the other healing aspects, or even maybe some of the products that you guys have, like, is it safe for children?
Absolutely. And it's so the beautiful thing is about, so for example, the blocks that we have, which, I always call the extension of our own technology. You don't even have to do anything with that. You just put it in your home or office or whatever, and it provides this amazing energy field in the whole home and around that. So it harmonizes all EMFs, right? That's one thing. So that takes away a stressor. It When you're in this field, because of this high vibration, it you're already kind of working with it, even though you're not actively meditating, you're not actively doing yoga and all these things. It still is a 24/7 support on that level, so it helps you there. I mean, if you then also meditate, if you then also do yoga, then it actually gets you even further. But, just to get the basic, real benefits of that, that's not needed. And therefore, it also supports really kids on that level. And kids are actually quite drawn to the blogs because especially little kids, because little kids, they still have much more of the connection and the remembering than, as adults have. Because at the age of 3, kind of like stops, like we're really like then starting to really identify with our ego, and everything is like ego oriented in the world, and then it's like me versus you, and all of this, right? There's a lot of competition in the world. But before that, it's more like the being connected to everything and to everyone. And yeah, so it's very positive. There's no one it is not good for, quite frankly, because it provides you some very basic energetic benefits that can be measured physically, like on multiple levels. Like, we even haven't talked about anything really, like what it even does. But hey, just in one sentence here, it improves your blood flow. It structures water. It improves ATP production, like the energy production of your cells. You can increase it by 20 to 25%, like, which is amazing, right? It accelerates wound healing. It optimizes your heart rate variability, so your autonomic nervous system. Those are just things it just does, and you don't need to do much with it. And then there's tons of more stuff, but I don't want to, you know, give too much of these things away now. So if you're curious, just dig a little.
Yeah, no, we're not obviously drive people to check out the site. So you're saying all of these things is what's increasing our energy frequency. And then I think what I even heard you say is once we increase the energy, it kind of takes us back to a childlike state. Like, is that kind of almost, that wasn't your words, like I'm injecting some of my language here. Is that almost like a part of this? Is like we begin to detach ourselves from the material reality and we almost return back to what it was like to be a child?
Well, I mean, in a way, yes, because of this extra connection that we had as a child. But I see it a little bit different because it's really just that connection. It's the connection to our inner power, to the source, really. Um, and that's what it does. So it doesn't really mean that but we may regain some of the curiosity that we had as a child, right? We may regain some of that happiness. That's all things, but those are byproducts because we tap into our inner power again. That's kind of what it is. So it's all about self empowerment, and even with our products, right? Like with my wife, we can do all of those things on our own because our consciousness is pretty much limitless. We just have completely forgotten how to do these things. Like we can literally transform electromagnetic fields. Like we can literally do that. They don't have to impact us. We can do so many amazing things. It's the problem is we have forgotten that, and we need to relearn that and practice that. Like if we want to play at Wimbledon, we need to practice tennis. Same thing here. Everyone can do it, but everyone needs to practice. Our products are bridges, though, and tools that you can use until you regain that inner power in a way where you can do those things on your own. If you don't need the products then anymore, great. I love it. But that's pretty much how I look at it, because it's not like a pharmaceutical where you always have to take it because you have some weird symptom, and then you have to take it for your whole life because you always get a headache if you don't take that pill. This is something that actually trains your inner power. It brings it out over time, and I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, you mentioned Tesla at the beginning of the call. Was talking about this energy. I mean, 100 plus years ago, and then you said here, it's kind of like we've gotten some of these things. I'm going to put a tinfoil hat here, maybe, and ask you a question. Like, do you believe that there's been an agenda to keep some of this information kind of suppressed? Right? It's like you're not unlocking anything new here. This has been with us since the dawn of time. Why isn't this information readily available to all of us? Like, is there something trying to keep us from understanding how this works?
The answer is yes. Where at the same time, I'm not fighting that or saying, all these bad, evil people that are trying to suppress that, because there's always the flip side of it. There's all the people that allow that and all the people that are too ignorant, even of their own inner truth and inner nature. And, so it's a give and take. And I think, but you're right. Yeah, obviously. I mean, there's tons of stuff that was already available, in ancient times, even that isn't available now anymore. But at the same time, things are popping up again, maybe popping up in a different way. And we, I think, as humanity, are at a time right now which is truly amazing for everyone in life right now. It's hard. It's very hard on one hand, so don't get me wrong, right? So it's really hard to go through these tough times, but it's a transformation process. We're going out of this so-called Kali Yuga, which is kind of like it's a like a dark age. Call it like a dark age where everything is more material. We have completely forgotten who we are. We're not transparent. We live in a very material, physically oriented, uh, power oriented world where it's all about I control others, I manipulate others, I compete against others, and all that. Now we're moving into the age of knowing, and call it also the golden age. We're moving into more where things become more transparent. We're opening up to who we really are. We're starting to remember also really as humanity, who we really are, and things are shifting. So this is a shifting process right now, and it will shift. We're not staying where we are. It's absolutely impossible. And one other thing is everything is consciousness. There's just only consciousness, and these groups or whatever that you mentioned, what they're doing is they try to suppress consciousness, or they're trying to destroy consciousness. But it is not possible, guys. It is absolutely impossible because consciousness is all there is. So it is just impossible to do. So it's a catch-22, and so that's the good message for everyone with a heart, with everyone that with a conscience, that we're moving into really exciting times, and now's the time to wake up, to get off your butts and regain your inner power and your inner core, and then you can participate in that, right? And you can help build the future. And I think it really requires that all of us do this and get into this. And the ones that just stay on their butts and just let their heads sink down, you're not going to participate, right? So you can, and it's going to be really, really cool. We can build something pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I second a lot of that there. Um, Obviously, be respectful. I know you have a hard stop coming up here at the top of the hour. So tell the audience, tell the men, tell the guys out there where they can learn more about Leela. Obviously, tell anything about the product there, and then maybe answer one question about kind of the bigger mission behind quantum and how you kind of see it falling into the landscape of health, wellness, and healing in the coming years.
Yeah, so that first, so it really is about helping people and plants and animals as well, really to help with holistic health and wellness. On a really call it bioenergy hacking, right? It's not just about the physical. It is also about the physical, and the physical is what the products help with, but it's also about the energetic, and that is what we need to reclaim, our own consciousness. So that's really what we're trying to do to help people with that, and plants and animals. And then where can people find me or us? leelaq.com, leelaq.com. And then we have a Telegram group. It's a private Telegram group, so you won't find it if you search on Telegram, but I'm happy to share the link with you. And then also on our website, there's a Telegram icon. You can get there. And there you find lots of thousands of people that are using the products and the technology, and you can ask questions. You can hear from them. What are they doing with them? What, how does it help them? And you don't need to take my word for it. Just ask other people. And it's by the way, it's a great group of people, great vibe. And so if you feel interested, that's definitely a group you want to join.
Yeah, no, absolutely, guys. And we'll get all that plugged down. I'll make sure, Philip, I do get that link there from you for the Telegram group. And guys, we'll have that plugged down there in the show notes. Last question here, Philip. We end every single episode with the same here question. The title of our podcast is called The Superhuman Life. And for me, when I talk about living a superhuman life, it's a belief system, or it's a way that I try to show up in the world every single day. And it's coming from the place, Philip, that I do believe that we're put on this earth for a purpose. I think you and I would agree with that sentiment there. But knowing that we're here for a reason is not enough. Must be very intentional about our development, our growth, and how we bring that purpose in service of others to basically make the world a better place. So that's how I define living a superhuman life, but I'd love to get the guest take. So Philipp, I'm not going to say the last name there again. Actually, I am Philipp von Holtzendorff-Fehling. I really enjoy that. How would you define living a superhuman life?
Well, that really is for me to find and regain access to your true inner power. And that includes really all of who you are. And with that, you will live a superhuman life, because it includes all aspects: your physical, your energetic, your emotions, your feelings, and all of this. And if you can really get that out and really gain access to that, that's where all of what you are is. It's not out there in I don't know, making $10,000 here and there, or winning something, or all of that, right? It's not about that. It's really, if you can, the more access you can gain to your inner core, to your true heart, that's, for me, that's where the superhuman life is, really. Because, well, we're superhumans. That we're kind of born superhumans, and then we kind of like lose that a little bit. So let's regain it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're kind of agreeing with me what I said about the childlike state, man. If we're born that way, we're born as children, we're born superhuman. The world kicks it out of us, whether it's teachers, parents, tell us that they're limiting beliefs and you can't do these things. We got to unlock that, and we got to return back to a childlike state, which I think is where happiness, pure joy is ultimately found. Philip, this has been an incredible conversation. Really enjoyed your wisdom and insight here. I want to direct everybody to check out more at Leela, guys. We'll link that down there in the show notes. And guys, if you got value out of this conversation, you can support us in two ways. First off, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to head over to Apple, Spotify, wherever you're consuming these podcasts, and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And most importantly, if somebody in your life needs to hear this conversation, do us a favor and them the blessing by sharing this podcast with them. But for Philip, founder of Leela Quantum, the host Frank Rich, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.